Hello and welcome to Day in the Light number 4. I thought it was time to add another episode to the long forgotten and highly unpopular series, Day in the Light Vlogs. So, this video is going to be a little bit of an update on what realizations I've been having, what's been going on for me, and I think in discussing that and kind of reflecting that back to myself in this way, I'll also be able to give you all some value, which is ultimately what this is all about. So, if you watched my video a long time ago, it's like the most popular video on this channel about my journey from overcoming chronic challenges. And overcoming in the sense that they may still physically be present, but they don't have any negative effect on my well-being. They don't make me feel a victim of life in any way. And still feeling like I can express myself fully to the max without worrying about what's going on with my body. Which there still are minor touches of resistance that I still need to work through, and I work through every time I'm with people situationally. If I'm around people whose opinions I value, sometimes I can feel those lack beliefs coming back in, feeling like, oh, what if these people are judging my physical appearance and stuff, which has to do with the skin challenges and whatnot that I've gone through that I discuss in the vlog, or in the how to overcome chronic challenges thing. But that whole journey was what got me into self-empowerment and just general introspection on how the universe works and like why things are happening the way they're happening, and who am I? That's really the ultimate question. Who am I? That's really what got me going down that path. Let's give you a better backdrop. There's my car, there's my mom's Prius. But this constant path of introspection that suffering kind of led me down. Suffering, I've found, is the greatest teacher or the greatest catalyst towards spiritual realization that I've found, besides intense desire to know the truth, which often comes from suffering. So I went down this whole path because of these challenges that I was going through with my physical body, and emotionally, because of that whole situation. And I started going down the self-empowerment path, like how can I as a human being become more empowered and accept what's going on, and then transmute those depressive energies into something that is really beautiful and teaching and empowering and enriching. So I went through that whole journey. Big thanks to all of the teachers who helped me along the way. It's like Ralph Smart, Bentinho, Massaro, Eckhart Tolle, so many people. Couldn't even name them all in here, but the list goes on and on. My parents, holy shit. My friends, everyone. Everything is a reflection in my perspective. But it wasn't until about a year ago that I was put on to Bentinho's Selfrealization teachings, which really kind of shifted things around for me, because I had been following him for a while and applying his teachings, and I felt pretty damn good about myself. I was like, yeah, I'm now an empowered human being. I still feel sad sometimes. I still find pockets of resistance to work through, but who doesn't? And I feel like I'm in a good place. I have more perspective about the universe and how everything is connected. But when these self-realization teachings came out, I heard Bentinho say a statement which was, you are neither the experiences you are having, nor are you the one experiencing the experiences that you're having. So you're not what's happening, nor are you the one witnessing what is happening. And that really put me for a spin, because although I had shifted myself from, I'm gonna walk up this hill with y'all. although I'd shifted my perspective from being a victimized human to being an empowered human, I was still fully identified with the construct, which was I am this physical body having this empowered experience. And so I felt like kind of my world came crashing down when I heard these words from this teacher that I knew intuitively was at a higher state of realization than I was, talk about these things that kind of totally collapsed my construct of self, or at least that was the beginning of the journey. And so as I started becoming more introspective and going down that path of really wanting to know, what does he mean I'm not the experiencer of my experiences, I started to follow his pointings of, he has this thing called the absolute Neti meditation, which I'm not going to fully get into right now, but I started practicing and I started finding myself in these places of realization where I was like, wow, I can really see that I am both the observer of all the experiences that I'm having, and I'm also somehow the observer of the phenomenon of observation itself. I can perceive the perceiver of my experiences. And in that state of not seeing, turning my vision away from both phenomenon and the witnessing of phenomena, I found myself in a state that many Eastern philosophies talk about, many cutting-edge Western philosophies, Bentinho certainly talks about it, where it's just this formless, locationless, identificationless beingness. It's just like pure existence. And I simply got there by, following that absolute neti meditation and having that intense desire to be the fuel for the engine that would guide me down this path. And so that's really where I'm at, is in this path I'm exploring more and more this self-realization path, because it's so deep, so subtle, so foundational to reality, that I'm finding all of my priorities are being shifted to how can I make knowing who I am on a fundamental level the most important thing in my life. And that realization came to me, or that the mechanism for pursuing self-realization as the number one thing in my life came as a result of realizing that ultimately our true selves, in my perspective, our true self is the only thing that is permanent. It is the only eternal, unchanging aspect of reality. And so the only way to create lasting happiness is to source that happiness from a place that is eternal and unchanging. Because if we source happiness from the external world, it's gonna be a high for a little while, and then it's gonna fade, as all things in the physical world do. And so where I'm at with this now is I'm oscillating between these deeper states of self-realization where I know myself as this formless, expansive beyondness, beyond even the perceiver of experience. And then I completely forget that when I'm in certain day-to-day interactions, and I feel completely identified with my bodily sensations in this world that appears to be so real. And so it's an interesting phenomenon which I've not heard many people talk about, which is I'm oscillating between the two extremes of reality. It's like I'm either fully absorbed in my own practice of deepening in my self-realization, where I feel I have no body, or my beingness is encompassing all of reality, which is the realization that I tap into in my video, How to Know Yourself is Everything, where I share my experiences with my realizations of locationlessness and being beyond the body and even beyond awareness itself. And then I can walk out of my room, or even that's an assumption that is already then identified back with the body. I can so easily get called out of that formless dimension and sucked back into, all right, now I'm going to go walk back into my living room, which is already this assumption of being the body filtered through all of these things, like I'm a body in a location and I have this family and this is the world and this is what's real, when really the physical reality can all be traced back to just phenomena happening within consciousness, which is not actually objectively happening in an external world. It's just happening in this kind of hologram that is projected in by this combination of the brain and consciousness interfacing with each other. And so it's like I walk out of my room and I have one conversation and I'm already out of, I've already lost sight of all of these higher dimensional realizations that I was basking in, which is really, it's really a trip. Some of you might not relate to this at all because you haven't had the desire to go into the layers of self-realization that are beyond just being a body consciousness, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's not relevant for everyone at this exact moment in time, but I do think it's ultimately the path for everyone, because everyone wants to find lasting happiness, and self-realization is really the only way, in my experience. And so yeah, that's been what's up. It's like I'm either fully identified as my body and completely am not prioritizing my self-realization, or I'm more formless than this lightsaber above my head and I'm basking in the bliss of self-realization to whatever degree I realize it in that moment. I think it goes infinitely deep, and I still see myself as a beginner in this field of self-realization and really consistently being in that space of recognition of the deeper layers of myself. But I just wanted to share that, how crazy this whole journey has been with the oscillating back and forth. And I'm sure some of you can relate to this in a slightly different paradigm or in the exact same paradigm, where you perhaps are in positive states of being, are in like that empowered human mode, and then shift back into kind of depressive, self-conscious overthinking mode. And this is just kind of like a micro version of what I'm talking about. And it seems like the oscillations go further and further, and the whole game for me, it seems like, is just bringing those higher dimensional realizations and solidifying them as my direct experience all the time, and then bringing that empowered self into this human vehicle. It's actually not even that empowered self, it's that enlightened self into this human vehicle, and then changing the world from a very impersonal place. Because I feel conflicted sometimes with this self-realization path, where it's like, in the deeper realms of self-realization, there is no self that can be found. There is no person that exists. And so I have these goals as a person to, for example, grow my social media account and maybe even be able to create a career out of being a personal brand on social media. And then that seems to run so contradictory to the idea of recognizing myself as this impersonal formlessness that is only really here to be of service, and which makes the whole game about other people. And so I'm basically just learning how to bridge these two worlds. And I think that this is why being on Earth right now is so perfect, because there are all of these extreme dualities that are going on. Like, they're the most amazing Jesus-like people on the planet right now, and then there are all of these rapists and criminals, and it's like you can experience the full spectrum in between, and it's like, how can we learn each individually how to bridge that gap within ourselves, and from that place recognize our divine unity, how we all come from one source, in my perspective, how we're all actually one being, we're all one. So that's really what's been up for me, man, and women, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've taken something away of value from this, or if not, you've just enjoyed seeing the boy slash the formless reflection of yourself do a little self-reflection and inquiry. Because that's what it's all about. It's all about investigating the inner journey and then finding the gold within the heart center and bringing that, the gold within the heart center, you see that? Om. And bringing that into the human world and becoming a lemon. Alright, thanks. This has been your boy Lemonhead, and I'll see you in the next one. Ra out.